Namaste, everyone. In this podcast, I'm going to talk about the upcoming full moon in Shravana Nakshatra, which is going to take place on 8 or 9 August, depending on your time zone. Now, Shravana is a beautiful lunar mansion, nakshatra ruled by Lord Vishnu, the divine sustainer, located in the very heart of sidereal Capricorn. And whenever full moon shines with all its rays in Shravana Nakshatra, simultaneously Sun will be also always occupying the sign of the moon, sign of Cancer, located opposite to it, which makes this entire lunar month, the month which is even called month Shravan after this nakshatra, very lunar in nature, very nourishing in nature, but also automatically inspiring us to turn our awareness and attention more within, which is kind of a theme that we continue since last new moon. Turning the attention, the awareness, the care and the compassion within. Learning how can we listen more and talk less, as even the name Shravana literally means to hear, to be able to hear and to listen. Because it is only when we allow ourselves to be a little more quiet, when we allow ourselves to be less reactive and more truly seeing and witnessing, that we can access this silent voice of intuition within our hearts, which often holds so much wisdom, so much beauty, which often gives us greater access to connection to ourselves, to the divine, and ultimately also to our environment and other people. Interestingly, the very Shakti or power of Shravana Nakshatra is called the power to connect, Samhanana Shakti, power to bring things together, which is so accurate because Lord Vishnu, who is the presiding deity of Shravana Nakshatra, also dwells within the heart of each being as per our Vedic scriptures as the super soul. The same Lord, the same divine spark that is present within me is also present in you. Which is why whenever we approach full moon shining in Shravana Nakshatra, we are also called from within by this very super soul to be more compassionate, more understanding, more humble and respectful to that super soul also residing in others. Compassionate also towards ourselves, kind towards ourselves and others, as Shravana is a very soft and nourishing nakshatra. But of course, each year, when moon shines in its fullness in Shravana, the flavor is going to be slightly different depending on what exactly other planets are doing. This year in particular, moon is going to shine with its fullness in Shravana Nakshatra alone, without any planet behind it, in front of it, or conjunct with it, which is known as Kemadruma Yoga, so-called lonely moon. And when the full moon becomes lonely or doesn't have any company, very often what we may feel as a result of it are increased feelings of isolation, also increased feelings of withdrawal. And again, whenever a full moon is about to be like that, whenever we go through a lunar fortnight like that, it doesn't necessarily always have to be a negative thing. Because embracing aloneness can sometimes be a great source of insight and healing. But the moment the aloneness turns into loneliness and isolation, then of course it becomes mildly pathological and it starts having bad influence on our mind. So especially in times like that, whenever the thoughts that feel very isolating come to our minds, it's an important time to have a closer look at them, see perhaps where they come from, show them some compassion, and also allow ourselves to heal them. Because generally, whenever we have this bright fortnight, which culminates with moon shining with all its brightness in Shravana Nakshatra, it's one of the most powerful and the most excellent fortnights for introspection, for meditation, diving deep within, which is the very highest form of listening. When we can just listen to our thoughts, same like you would be listening to a crying child, for example, without dismissing it, without dismissing its big feelings and concerns, but without taking it completely seriously and being entangled in it either. I believe that if we could just treat all our thoughts in that really compassionate and yet detached way, life could be so much easier when there would be just less attachment and identification. And if we only actually allow ourselves to extend the circle of our compassion a little bit in this fortnight, even to those parts of ourselves that are exiled to some degree, unwanted, shameful, we may truly experience a deep sense of healing. We may truly experience that, honestly, at the end of the day, inside of us, there are no bad parts. Everything serves a purpose, every single pattern, and compassion often heals much faster than anything else. And that is also true to self-compassion. Now, also, since Moon will be in isolation during this entire fortnight, it's important to know that whatever you will be planning during this Shukla Paksha, during this fortnight, try your best to plan it in such a way that you don't depend too much on other people. Depend primarily on your own effort. Because naturally, when Moon shines in such a position, when Moon is lonely, we are also called to a degree to embrace aloneness as well and embrace the independence, to honor the interdependence, but embrace the independence at the same time. And then the final component of this entire upcoming full moon, which spices things up a little bit, is Mercury. So during this entire bright fortnight, Mercury will be still in the sign of Cancer. It will be retrograde also. Whenever Mercury goes retrograde, naturally, we are called always during that time to turn within, to talk less in the outside, communicate more with the higher realms perhaps, or use our intelligence more to work on ourselves rather than trying fixing external problems. Because Mercury is one of the most materialistic planets, really, who always brings our awareness towards the outside. So whenever he goes retrograde, he tells us, stop for a moment and just turn your awareness within. Use my light of intelligence to bring more understanding into my inner world, into also the world of my feelings. But when Mercury becomes retrograde in the sign of Cancer, where Mercury is in Krudita Avasta, or sense of starvation or malnourishment, it's not only that our intellect is turned within, but it's even being called to go more into a space of silence, into space of quietness. It is when our verbal mind is called to take a backseat for a moment and just observe and just allow all those nonverbal implicit sensations and emotions to appear, to bring to the surface of your consciousness everything that needs to be brought to the surface, even though some pleasant or poisonous parts which require our healing at the moment, without necessarily trying to run into immediate judgment, immediate analysis, which is something that Mercury would always do. But instead, whatever comes, just meet it with compassion and a degree of curiosity. Because that can help speed up this entire process of healing so much more. And this entire, lunar fortnight, frankly speaking, is quite an auspicious one. Because first of all, one thing, to celebrate is that finally the Kalasarpa yoga charm is broken since Mars moved out of Ketu. Mars crossed Ketu, moved out of that whole combination. Another thing is that moon shining in Shravana Nakshatra without significant afflictions is also a moon that actually calls us towards the celebration of connection. Celebration of connection between us and God, with us and others, us and our relatives. That particular full moon is actually celebrated in India as the appearance day of elder brother of Lord Krishna, Balaram. And it's also known as Raksha Bandhan, where sisters tie a little thread on the hand of their brothers as a sign of protection. So that particular full moon is the full moon of celebrating connection, because that's all that Shravana Nakshatra is about. Samhanana Shakti, power to connect, which is the very embodiment of the energy of Lord Vishnu. So needless to say, it's an incredibly beautiful time, not just for you to work on yourself, but also intensify your spiritual practice in a way that is closest to your heart, that is most auspicious, but also allow yourself to perhaps show more gratitude for the connections and allies and teachers and friends that you have in life. All those people who have been by your side, if not forever, then maybe for a significant period of time, and always provided you support. Because full moon in Shravana Nakshatra is also about that, the celebration of connection and expanding our connection too. Ultimately, the goal of every spiritual path is to be so connected with the divine, so connected with God, that the same God, divine spark that we perceive at the core of our hearts, we start also to see it everywhere else, in every other being. That's true spirituality, honoring life itself, honoring the divine present within everyone. And full moon in Shravana Nakshatra can deeply facilitate this process of opening our awareness up, which is especially significant for those of you who might be listening to this podcast and perhaps going through significant trauma healing at the moment. Connection is literally the opposite of trauma. When we feel connected, we feel safe. And we can be truly grateful for beautiful fortnights like this that give us greater sense of connection. And even if they bring certain challenges with themselves, like every fortnight brings, we can also stay really grateful for its blessings. Shravana Nakshatra is also known as the birth nakshatra of Vamana avatar of Lord Vishnu, the dwarf avatar, who expanded himself to this gigantic, form and took 3 steps. With first step, he transcended the entire material world. With next step, he transcended all the astral world and heavens. And the third step, he just put on the head of his devotee. Those 3 steps of Lord Vishnu are symbolic of us transcending 3 lower stages of consciousness: the waking, the dreaming, and the deep sleep. That expansion of consciousness, which is why in Vedic tradition, Shravan month, which has full moon in Shravana Nakshatra at its core, is considered so sacred and so incredibly auspicious for any important spiritual practice. So I hope you found this podcast helpful, and from my heart, I wish you a very beautiful and fruitful bright fortnight and a very beautiful full moon. Namaste.